Hi everyone, I'm Laura Barnard and this is my presentation on vegetarianism and bodily health. I will be discussing the pros and cons of vegetarianism and the nutrients and benefits and such that you get from a vegetarian diet. Alright, well, what is a vegetarian? In case you were wondering, it's a person who doesn't eat meat or poultry or fish and they prefer to eat vegetables. Vegans are also known as full vegetarians. They eat exclusively plant-based diets. It's like the extreme that you can go in vegetarianism, and they avoid any animal product like eggs or milk or sometimes honey, and it makes it hard to exist. Other variations on vegetarianism include pesco-vegetarians, usually called pescatarians because that's easier. They eat fish but not meat or poultry. And then polo-vegetarians eat poultry but not meat or fish. Some polo-vegetarians also occasionally eat fish anyway, but that's beside the point. Lacto-vegetarians consume dairy, but they don't consume any other animal product, so they'll eat vegetables and sometimes milk. While ovo-vegetarians consume eggs but no other animal products, so they'll eat vegetables and eggs, and that is their main diet. This is a food pyramid of the daily requirements of a vegetarian diet. You should have whole grains, legumes and beans and fruits and vegetables at every meal. You should have eggs or oils or nuts or whatever at least once a day. And then sweets maybe weekly. But, I mean, who does that? The nutrients that you can get from a vegetarian diet deliver complete nutrition, so you don't really need meat to exist in your life. Calcium actually absorbs better in vegetarians because meat contains renal acids, which leach calcium from your bones. So the calcium in meat is kind of negative calcium because you eat it and you get your calcium, and then your meat that you're eating technically leaches the calcium out of your bones. Vegetarians who consume dairy can easily get enough calcium because you've got your milk and you've got your yogurt, but vegans and vegetarians have to consume dark leafy greens or broccoli or beans, and there's lots of other stuff like sunflower seeds, lots of other stuff that also includes calcium, which is nice. But vegans also will drink like soy milk, which is usually fortified with calcium, and also vitamin D, because calcium can't be properly metabolized without vitamin D in your system. So you need at least 10 minutes in the sun every day to get your proper amounts of vitamin D. But if you can't do that for some reason, I don't know, if you're in Florida, if you can't do that for some reason, then you can drink milk, or also often soy milk, because those are almost always vitamin D fortified. And then we've got iron. The iron found in vegetarian diets is a more healthful form because it's not from hemoglobin. You really, really need iron to live because low iron causes anemia, and then you get bruises, and it's terrible because you've got a low red blood cell count, and that's never good. But the non-heme sources of iron in vegetables, they reduce your risk of colon and rectal cancer, which is very good if you want to live. Pumpkin seeds and plenty of other vegetarian sources of iron have levels of iron equal to that in like liver, which is the highest containing meat item that has iron in it. So that's cool. You don't really need meat at all to have high iron. It's just a little easier. And then there are many, many, many sources of protein, which I know, speaking from my own personal experience as a vegetarian, people always ask me how I get enough protein, but almost every food that you eat will have protein in it, basically. And most Americans eat about twice as much protein in their daily lives than they're actually supposed to, according to the FDA. So you don't really need as much meat as you eat anyway. You should probably have it maybe once a day. It's obviously the most convenient source of protein, but soy products are comparable and can even be formulated to taste the same. But eggs and dairy for non-vegans can easily fulfill necessary protein requirements. So there's a lot of different fake meats on the market. The chicken nuggets, these ones are pretty good, in case you were wondering. Yeah. The benefits of a vegetarian diet. This is not all of them by any means. There are many, many benefits of being vegetarian. For one, vegetarians tend to live longer by about 4 years. But there's a sort of a side to that, because people who are vegetarians tend to be healthier, and healthy meat eaters also have that 4-year advantage. So it's more just about like taking care of yourself rather than just not eating meat. But since the people who are vegetarian tend to be that kind of person, then they get the benefit of that. Vegetarian people are also 40% less likely to develop cancer than meat eaters, probably because most of the meat we consume has lots of antibiotics and other things that they don't really need in them, which is not so good. You get a decreased risk of type 2 diabetes if you're vegetarian. You have healthier bones because your calcium doesn't leach from your system from all the renal acids that you consume. And you reduce your chance of developing kidney stones or gallstones, which is great. Plus, as I've said, it provides all the necessary nutrition without the harm to animals. So there's like a mental benefit there as well, which is great. And fish, while not technically meat, if you're pescatarian, you eat fish, they live in highly, highly polluted waters, and so they tend to have really high mercury levels depending on the fish's trophic level. So like a shark will have very, very high levels of mercury. A swordfish will have very high levels of mercury. And so in California, they started handing out these little cards that list the level of mercury in your fish. So like here, there's a lot of, I think tilapia is my brother's favorite. But if you want to eat like grouper or swordfish or tuna, those all have very, very high levels of mercury, and you probably shouldn't eat them very much. And they also say which fish have been overfished. So like, even though haddock and flounder and crab and shrimp, even though those are all low in mercury, they are also dying out. So you probably shouldn't eat them anyway. Okay, now we're on to the pros and cons. The pros of a vegetarian diet: it fits all your nutrient requirements, but meat is a more convenient source of nutrition because it has everything packed into one thing, because the animal has done all the work for you. There's a decreased risk of cancer, diabetes, and heart disease, but there's an increased risk of anemia and vitamin B12 deficiency. But both iron and B12 you can get from supplements or from eating the right things. We would need far fewer crops if the meat industry were abolished, because about, I think, 80% of our crops in America go towards feeding the animals that we raise for slaughter. But the problem with that is most land in America is unsuitable for agriculture. But that is also solved by the fact that if we weren't raising animals for slaughter, we wouldn't need to feed them, so we wouldn't need all of that agricultural land. So I don't know if that one really counts. Okay, how does this relate to wellness? Well, vegetarianism is a cheap and easy, non-fat diet, because it's a lot easier to eat healthy if you cut meat out. That's mostly due to the fact that a lot of meat that you eat in, like, especially in America, if you go to like a fast food joint, your meat is going to be highly processed. It's not going to be good for you. So if you're eating like lean, fat-free stuff, it's not going to be so bad. But if you go and get like a hamburger, then that's not going to be good for you. Worse is if you eat like roasted vegetables or something. It can also help with mental wellness, because according to, I can't remember the website, but vegetarians save upwards of 370 animals a year by not eating meat. So that's over 1 animal a day, which is nice. And that can be a huge mental relief for socially conscious people, because you know that you're saving lives just by existing. And there are a lot of physical benefits of vegetarianism, like I touched on. So that is my presentation. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Good job.